The grain reserve program had been running successfully for 18 months. Across Altheria, 70 villages now had community storehouses. The drought was finally breaking, and for the first time in years, people spoke of abundance instead of starvation. Queen Elise had proven that compassion could be practical. But success had created powerful enemies. In a private estate far from the palace, 3 men gathered in secret. Lord Gregory sat at the head of the table, his copper-brown face twisted with bitterness. Beside him was Marcus, Lord Philip's younger brother, a man in his early 50s with the same calculating grey-brown eyes as his disgraced sibling. The third conspirator was Lord Henry, a wealthy grain merchant whose business had collapsed when villagers stopped buying at his inflated prices. "She's destroyed us," Henry said, his dark brown face flushed with anger. "My warehouses stand empty. I've lost everything because peasants no longer need me." Marcus leaned forward, his refined features hard with hatred. "My brother was humiliated and removed from the council because of that orphan. Our family's honor lies in ruins. For what? So common people could feel important." Gregory's grey eyes gleamed with malice. "Gentlemen, we tried politics. We tried accusations and council maneuvering. But the orphan queen has the people's love and the king's protection. If we want our power back, we need more direct action." Henry's eyes widened nervously. "You're suggesting—" "I'm suggesting," Gregory interrupted coldly, "that queens can have accidents. A fall in the palace gardens. An encounter with someone who means her harm. These tragedies happen." Marcus smiled slowly, his thin lips curving with cruelty. "And with her gone, the king would be grief-stricken, the prince heartbroken. The grain program would collapse without her constant attention. Natural order would be restored." "But who would do it?" Henry asked, wringing his hands. "Palace guards watch her constantly." "I know someone," Gregory replied. "A young man from the southern territories. Skilled, desperate for money. His name is Samuel. He'll do the job for the right price." 3 weeks later, a lean young man with dark brown skin and sharp brown eyes arrived at the palace seeking work. Samuel was 28, claiming to be a carpenter looking for employment. His references seemed legitimate. Jacob approved the hiring after checking his background. What Jacob didn't know was that Samuel's entire story was fabricated. He was an assassin, paid 500 gold coins, half up front, to infiltrate the palace and wait for the perfect moment to kill the queen. Elise noticed the new carpenter working near her garden chambers one morning. She always made it a point to greet palace workers, to learn their names and ask about their families. "Good morning," she called cheerfully, approaching where Samuel hammered boards for a new trellis. She wore a simple purple wrapper, her cornrows adorned with small gold pins. "You must be Samuel, our new carpenter?" Samuel looked up, startled. He hadn't expected the queen to speak directly to him. Most nobles treated workers like furniture. "Yes, your majesty," he replied, bowing awkwardly. "Where are you from?" Elise asked with genuine interest. "Southern territories, your majesty. My village was badly hit by the drought." "Did your village join the grain reserve program?" Elise asked hopefully. Samuel hesitated. The truth was his village had rejected it, influenced by their local lord who was allied with Gregory. "No, your majesty. Our lord didn't support it." Understanding rather than judgment filled Elisa's gentle brown eyes. "I'm so sorry. How did your family manage?" The question caught him completely off guard. His family hadn't managed. His younger sister had died of starvation 2 years ago. His mother remained weak from malnutrition. Desperation for money, to save what remained of his family, had driven him to accept this terrible job. "We struggled, your majesty," he said quietly, the truth slipping out. Elise placed a gentle hand on his arm, her touch warm and sincere. "I'm deeply sorry. I wish we'd reached your village sooner. But Samuel, if your family still needs help, please tell me. That's exactly why the program exists, so no one has to struggle alone. She smiled warmly and walked away, leaving Samuel staring after her in complete confusion. This wasn't the power-hungry manipulator Gregory had described. This was someone who genuinely cared about people like him. Over the next 2 weeks, Samuel observed Elise carefully, searching for the perfect moment to complete his assignment. But the more he watched, the more conflicted he became. He saw her visit healing wards daily, sitting with sick children and holding their hands. He watched her share meals with elderly servants, listening to their stories with real interest. He overheard her arguing passionately with King Adebayo about expanding the program faster to reach more suffering villages. One afternoon, hidden nearby, he heard her debate with the king. "Father, we have resources in the treasury while people still suffer in regions we haven't reached. We should move faster." "Elise, we must be strategic," King Adebayo replied gently. "We cannot help everyone simultaneously." "Why not?" Elise challenged, her voice rising with emotion. "Because it's impractical? Too expensive? How much does a child's life cost, father? Because that's what we're debating, whether saving lives is worth the inconvenience to our budget." Samuel realized with growing discomfort that she wasn't seeking power or glory. She was desperately, genuinely trying to save people. People like his dead sister. That night, Samuel stood hidden in the palace garden, a knife concealed in his belt. Elise often walked here before bed, alone except for distant guards. Tonight was perfect. One quick strike, and it would be over. He'd collect the remaining gold, and his family would never struggle again. He heard footsteps. Elise appeared in a simple night robe, her cornrows loose around her shoulders. She walked to the fountain bench, completely unaware of his presence in the shadows. Samuel's hand moved to the knife. 1 strike. Seconds. But he froze as Elise knelt beside the bench and began to pray. Her whispered words drifted to him on the night breeze. "Please give me wisdom to help more people. Let the program reach villages still suffering. Help me be worthy of this responsibility, not for my sake, but for theirs. Let me never forget what it feels like to be hungry, to be powerless, to need help." She was praying for the people. Even alone, with no audience to impress, she thought only of helping others. Samuel's hand fell away from the knife. He couldn't do it. Whatever Gregory had paid wasn't enough to murder someone whose only crime was caring too much. But if he failed, Gregory would send another assassin. Someone without a conscience. Someone who would succeed. He had to warn her. Wait, what? The assassin can't kill Elise because her kindness broke through his mission. If this has your heart racing, smash that like button and subscribe to Folktales by Inaya. Drop a comment. Will Samuel warn her in time? Or will Gregory's backup plan succeed? What happens next is shocking. Share this. Turn on notifications. Samuel waited until morning when Elise was in the garden with Jacob nearby. He approached quickly, his heart pounding. "Your Majesty, I need to speak with you urgently." Elise turned, surprised by his intensity. "Of course, Samuel. What's wrong?" Jacob moved closer immediately, hand on sword, sensing danger. "Your Majesty, I..." Samuel struggled for words. "How did you confess attempted murder?" "I wasn't hired as a carpenter. I was sent here to kill you." The garden fell silent. Jacob's sword was instantly at Samuel's throat. Elisa's gentle eyes widened with shock. "Explain. Now." Jacob's voice was deadly calm. The confession poured out. "Lord Gregory hired me. Paid 500 gold coins to infiltrate the palace and wait for the right moment. But Your Majesty, I can't do it. You're nothing like they described. You're genuinely trying to help people. My sister died because lords like Gregory hoard grain while people starve. I cannot kill the one person trying to change that." Elisa's face had paled, but her voice remained steady. "Who else is involved in this conspiracy?" "Lord Gregory, Lord Henry the grain merchant, and Marcus, Lord Philip's brother. They meet secretly at Gregory's estate. They're planning this because your grain reserve program destroys their profits and power. How much did they pay you? Jacob demanded, sword still pressed to Samuel's throat. 500 gold coins. Half up front, half upon completion. It's more money than my family would see in 10 years. The admission hung heavy. That Samuel had refused such a fortune spoke volumes. Elise stepped forward, gently pushing Jacob's sword aside. Samuel, look at me. Reluctantly, he raised his eyes to meet hers. Thank you, she said simply. You could have taken the money and disappeared, leaving me to face another assassin. Instead, you chose to warn me, knowing you'd face severe punishment. That took extraordinary courage. Your Majesty, I don't deserve thanks, Samuel protested, his voice breaking. I came here to murder you. But you didn't, Elise replied firmly. You made the right choice when it truly mattered. That defines who we are, not our worst moments, but what we choose when faced with them. Jacob stared at his queen incredulously. Your Majesty, this man just confessed to conspiracy to commit regicide. He should be executed immediately. No, Elise said with absolute conviction. Samuel will help us instead. He'll return to Gregory, pretending the assignment continues. He'll gather evidence of the full conspiracy. When we have sufficient proof, we'll bring all 3 conspirators to justice. That's incredibly dangerous, Jacob protested. For both Samuel and you, Your Majesty. Life is dangerous, Jacob, Elise replied calmly. But justice is worth the risk. Gregory thinks he's winning. Let's maintain that illusion until we're ready to strike. She turned back to Samuel. Will you help us? No payment beyond clearing your name and honest work afterward. Just the chance to do what's right. Samuel stared at this young queen who had just forgiven her would-be assassin and now offered redemption. Why would you possibly trust me? Because you've already proven yourself trustworthy, Elise answered. When it mattered most, you chose mercy over money. That's someone I can trust with my life. Samuel dropped to one knee, tears streaming down his face. Your Majesty, I'll do whatever you ask. I'll get you the evidence needed to stop them. Over 3 tense weeks, Samuel played his role perfectly. He met with Gregory, reporting false progress about finding opportunities to strike. Gregory, increasingly impatient and arrogant, began speaking freely about the conspiracy's full scope. Samuel learned everything. Marcus had recruited 3 other disgraced nobles. Henry had been secretly burning grain shipments to sabotage the reserve system. They'd attempted bribing council members. But he discovered something that chilled his blood. Gregory had a backup plan. If Samuel failed, Gregory himself would attend the upcoming harvest festival, where Elise would be exposed to massive crowds, and arrange for an accident in the chaos. Samuel reported everything to Elise and Jacob in secret meetings. They documented every detail meticulously, building an ironclad case. But they knew they couldn't wait until after the festival. They had to act during it. When Elise presented the plan to King Adebayo, he was furious. They tried to murder my daughter? His voice shook with rage. They'll hang for this treason. Not yet, father, Elise said calmly. Arrest them now. We catch 3 conspirators. Wait until the festival with thousands of witnesses, and we send an unmistakable message that attacks on justice won't be tolerated. Absolutely not, Rowan interjected, his mahogany brown face tense with fear. Elise, you're proposing to use yourself as bait. What if something goes wrong? Jacob will be there. Samuel will be there. You'll be there, Elise replied steadily. And I'll finally face these men publicly, showing them that fear won't stop progress. This is insane, Rowan protested, turning to his father desperately. Tell her this is madness. King Adebayo studied his daughter-in-law carefully. He saw not just courage but calculated strategy. She understood that public trials created lasting change while secret arrests bred conspiracy theories. "Jacob, your honest assessment?" the king asked. Jacob's dark face was grim. "Risky, your majesty. But the queen is right that catching them publicly sends a stronger message. I can position disguised guards throughout the festival. Done correctly, they'll never reach her." "Then we do it correctly," King Adebayo decided. "But Elise, if anything seems wrong, even for a moment, you signal Jacob and we end this immediately." "Understood. Understood, father." The harvest festival arrived with magnificent fanfare. Thousands gathered in the palace square celebrating the drought's end and the grain reserve program's success. Elise wore ceremonial gold and white robes, her cornrows adorned with flowers, looking every inch a queen. Gregory, Henry, and Marcus attended with their families, playing loyal nobles. Only Samuel, standing nearby in servant's clothing, knew about the knives hidden beneath their fine robes. "No way. Elise is using herself as bait at a festival with thousands of people." If your heart is pounding, smash that like button and subscribe to Folktales by Inaya. Drop a comment. Is this brilliant strategy or reckless danger? The confrontation is about to explode. Share this. Turn on notifications. Music filled the festival air. Children danced. Vendors sold food from successful harvests. For the first time in years, abundance replaced scarcity. It was Elisa's vision made gloriously real. She gave a speech from the main platform, her voice carrying across the crowd. "This success belongs to all of you. You took a chance on cooperation over competition, on community over hoarding. You proved we're stronger together than we ever were divided." The crowd erupted in cheers. Elise smiled, but her eyes scanned carefully. Where were they? Jacob, disguised as a festival vendor, touched his ear twice, the signal that Gregory was moving. Elise caught the gesture and nodded imperceptibly. As her speech ended, Elise descended into the crowd, greeting people personally. Maximum vulnerability, exactly as planned. She felt Rowan's tension beside her, his hand never far from his concealed sword. Gregory approached through the crowd, a broad false smile on his copper-brown face. "Your Majesty, magnificent speech. Truly inspiring." "Lord Gregory," Elise replied coolly. "Unexpected to see you here. I thought you opposed the grain reserve program." "Even I can admit when I'm wrong," Gregory said smoothly. "Your system has been remarkably effective." "Effective at destroying our profit margins," Henry added, appearing beside Gregory with cold eyes beneath his false smile. Marcus completed the circle. "One wonders how long such idealism can last. The world has ways of correcting these anomalies." Elise felt the threat clearly but kept her expression calm. Around them, dozens of festival goers were actually disguised palace guards, slowly tightening their circle. "Is that a threat, Lord Marcus?" Elise asked clearly, her voice carrying to nearby listeners. "A threat?" Marcus laughed. "Your Majesty, you misunderstand. I'm simply noting that tragic accidents happen anywhere, even at celebrations, even to queens." His hand moved toward his robe. 3 things happened simultaneously. Samuel shouted, "Now!" and tackled Marcus. Jacob emerged with sword drawn, pointing at Gregory. 20 palace guards revealed themselves, surrounding all 3 conspirators. The crowd gasped and backed away. Gregory's hand was caught reaching for his hidden knife. Henry tried running but was immediately restrained. "Lord Gregory, Lord Henry, Lord Marcus." King Adebayo's voice boomed as he strode forward with royal guards. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit regicide, attempted murder, sabotage of the grain reserve program, and high treason against the crown." Gregory's face twisted with rage. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, we can," Elise said calmly, gesturing to Samuel. "Samuel documented every meeting, every bribe, every plot. We have written evidence, witness testimony, and now attempted murder before thousands of witnesses." You used yourself as bait, Gregory snarled. Risked your life just to trap us. I risked my life to protect the grain reserve system and everyone it serves, Elise corrected firmly. You three tried destroying something good because it threatened your profits. You were willing to murder to protect greed. So yes, I risked myself to stop you. That's what leaders do, stand between their people and those who would harm them. Henry fell to his knees, voice breaking. Please, Your Majesty, mercy. I have a family. So did my sister, Samuel interrupted harshly. She died because people like you hoarded grain while children starved. Where was your mercy then? The crowd, silent with shock, began murmuring. Recognition spread. These three wealthy lords had opposed the Queen's program, had watched neighbors starve while protecting their profits. String them up, someone shouted. Hang the traitors, another voice called. Mob mentality was building. Elise felt it like a physical wave, the people's rage at nearly losing their queen, their fury at men who had caused such suffering. She raised her hand. Somehow, the crowd quieted. No, she said firmly. We are not a kingdom of mob justice. These men will face trial before the Royal Council. They'll answer for their crimes under law, not rage. But they tried to kill you, someone protested loudly. And they failed, Elise replied. Because good people like Samuel chose correctly. Because Jacob and the guards protected me. Because we built a system of justice, not vengeance. If we hang them without trial, we become what they are, people who put power over principle. She turned to the three conspirators held by guards. You will face justice. Real justice, not the justice of wealth or status, but justice of law applied equally to all. King Adebayo nodded approvingly. Take them to the palace prison. Trial in 3 days. And let it be known, anyone threatening our queen threatens this entire kingdom. As guards led them away, Gregory looked back at Elise with pure hatred. You may have won today, girl. But there will always be others like us. Others who remember the world runs on power, not your naive ideals. Elise met his eyes steadily. Then there will always be people like me to stop them. That's the difference, Gregory. You think power comes from hoarding and controlling. I know it comes from giving and serving. History will prove which one of us was right. Elise caught the conspirators red-handed in front of thousands. And she's choosing justice over mob revenge. If this gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe to Folktales by Inaya. Drop a comment. Is Elise right to give them a proper trial? What happens next will blow your mind. Share with everyone. Turn on notifications. The trial 3 days later was unprecedented in Altheria's history. Never had nobles of such rank been publicly tried for crimes against the crown. The throne room overflowed with council members, nobles, common people, anyone who could squeeze inside. Elise sat beside King Adebayo and Rowan on the royal platform, wearing formal purple and gold robes, her crown circlet gleaming. Her expression was somber. This wasn't triumph, it was necessary justice. Lord David, the elderly council chairman, presided. His white beard quivered with emotion as he read the charges. Conspiracy to commit regicide, attempted murder of Queen Elise, deliberate sabotage of the kingdom's grain reserve system, bribery of officials, and high treason. The evidence was overwhelming. Samuel testified about every meeting, every plot. Palace guards confirmed his story. Forged documents and letters detailing the conspiracy were presented. The most damning evidence came from the festival itself. Multiple witnesses testified about Marcus's threats, Gregory's hand moving toward his concealed weapon, the attempted attack stopped by Samuel. Gregory's defense was pathetically weak, claiming he was being framed by a power-hungry queen eliminating her critics. If I wanted to eliminate critics, Elise replied when given the chance to speak, I would have done so after Lord Philip's removal. Instead, I've allowed dissent, debate, and opposition because that's how good governance works. What I will not allow is murder, sabotage, and treason disguised as political opposition. The council deliberated less than an hour. The verdict was unanimous: guilty on all counts. Lord David stood, his aged voice carrying absolute authority. The penalty for conspiracy to murder the Queen is death by hanging. The penalty for treason is death by hanging. Normally, these sentences would be carried out immediately. Gregory smiled grimly, accepting his fate. At least death would be quick. However, Lord David continued, Queen Elise has requested the right to address sentencing before execution. Elise stood. The room fell absolutely silent. Lords Gregory, Henry, and Marcus, you tried killing me because I threatened your power and profits. You saw the grain reserve system not as salvation for thousands, but as inconvenience to yourselves. Your selfishness nearly destroyed something beautiful. She paused, her gentle eyes hardening with resolve. Under law, you deserve death. If I were thinking only of punishment, I'd let that sentence stand. But I'm not here simply to punish the past. I'm here to build a better future. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Therefore, I'm commuting your death sentences, Elise announced clearly. Instead, you'll spend the next 10 years in prison. But not ordinary prison. You'll work in the grain reserve system you tried to destroy. You'll build storehouses, manage distributions, serve the very people you once exploited. You'll learn what it means to serve rather than rule. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even Rowan looked surprised. King Adebayo hadn't known about this decision. After 10 years, Elise continued, if you've shown genuine change, genuine understanding of why your actions were wrong, your lands and titles will be partially restored. You'll rejoin society, not as the lords you were, but as citizens who learned that privilege demands responsibility. And if we refuse this sentence? Gregory spat venomously. If we prefer death to humiliation? Then you'll hang, Elise replied simply. The choice is yours. Die clinging to pride, or live long enough to become better men. I hope you choose life. Not for your sake, but because I believe even the worst of us can change. She addressed the entire chamber. Let this trial be a lesson. We're building a new Altheria, one where justice applies equally to all, where power comes with accountability, and where even those who make terrible choices can find redemption if they truly seek it. That's the kingdom I want to leave to future generations. Lord David looked at the prisoners. What is your choice? Death or redemption? Long silence. Then Henry spoke, voice broken. Redemption, Your Majesty. I choose redemption. Marcus nodded slowly, fight gone from his eyes. As do I. All eyes turned to Gregory. His copper-brown face showed conflicting emotions: rage, shame, disbelief, and finally, something that might have been grudging respect. You're a fool, he said to Elise. A naive fool who believes people can change. Perhaps, Elise replied calmly. But I'd rather be a fool who hopes than a cynic who gave up on humanity. What's your choice, Lord Gregory? Gregory looked around, at nobles who once respected him, at common people who now despised him, at the young queen offering something he didn't deserve. Redemption, he finally said. Though I suspect I'll regret it every day for 10 years. Probably, Elise agreed with a slight smile. But you'll be alive to regret it. And who knows? Maybe in 10 years, you'll see the world differently. As prisoners were led away to begin their sentences, the throne room erupted in debate. Some praised Elisa's mercy. Others condemned it as weakness. But everyone agreed, Altheria had never seen a queen like this. That night, Rowan found Elise in the palace garden, sitting where she'd prayed the night Samuel had planned to kill her. You're either the wisest or most naive person I've ever known, Rowan said, sitting beside her. I haven't decided which. Elise smiled softly. Why not both? Mama Ruth used to say wisdom without compassion is cruelty, and compassion without wisdom is foolishness. I'm trying to find the balance. They tried to murder you, Elise. Most queens would have executed them without hesitation. Most queens haven't lived among the poor and seen how our justice system treats common criminals versus wealthy ones differently, Elise replied. If a poor man steals bread to feed his starving family, he hangs. But when rich lords plot murder to protect profits, should they get mercy? Yes. Because mercy should be available to everyone, not just the wealthy. That's what equal justice truly means. Rowan took her hand gently. You're changing this kingdom in ways my family never could. You're forcing us to live up to our own ideals. I'm trying, Elise said softly. But Rowan, Gregory was right about one thing. There will always be others like them. People who see compassion as weakness, who believe power means taking rather than giving. We won this time, but the fight isn't over. Then we'll keep fighting, Rowan replied firmly. Together. Because that orphan girl who walked into the palace with nothing but a hand-sewn dress and honest heart? She's become the strongest person I know. Elise leaned against his shoulder, exhausted but satisfied. The grain reserve program was safe. The conspirators faced justice tempered with mercy. And Samuel, the assassin who chose conscience over coin, now worked as Jacob's assistant, training palace guards. It wasn't a perfect ending. But it was a good one. And in a world that often felt broken, good endings were worth fighting for. Elise chose redemption over revenge. She's making the conspirators work in the program they tried to destroy. If this story has you emotional, smash that like button and subscribe to Folktales by Inaya. Drop a comment. What's the most powerful lesson from this journey? Is mercy truly strength? Share with everyone who needs to hear that even enemies can be redeemed. Turn on notifications for more inspiring folk tales.